Love, I believe, is what makes the world go round, not money. Love and being in relationships where one is in a passionate relationship, a loving relationship, or a caring and loving relationship with a friend or a relative, those are the relationships that actually create a sense of I'm alive as opposed to I'm surviving. But we have a problem with relationships. In fact, most people will find them hard and difficult. And part of it is that we've been given this kind of view, a Walt Disney view of life, that you go off into the sunset and you live happily ever after. And we have this expectation that the honeymoon phase of that incredible time of being involved and learning about one another and really loving one another, that first passion, that those feelings are going to last. And that's our problem. Our problem is that no, relationships are not like that. They're not meant to continue in that incredible, passionate drive that we feel initially. And ultimately, that the person's going to be a person and you're going to be yourself. Meaning that the person's not going to be your dream, your perfect partner. No one has a perfect partner because no one is perfect in themselves. So for me, it's very important that we start to understand what relationships are really about. It's fascinating to me that most of our education, our schooling, our socialization is about what happened in places like history and mathematics and science, but we never really taught the basics of relationships. We never taught directly how to resolve tensions or to what relationships are really giving to us and how to be in them. We leave these very important parts of our life to chance. It's fascinating. I'm going to suggest that instead of leaving it to chance, let's now understand what relationships are about. One of the most important people in the world of mythology, a person called Campbell, he looked at the world, he was the world's greatest mythologist, and he looked at the world from different lenses, and he looked at the lens of love and marriage. And he described what I think is a really good description of the differences between a love affair and a committed relationship or a marriage. A love affair is when you are with someone and there's a sense of we're going to enjoy one another's, that first passionate phase, and then we're going to stay with one another. But there's a feeling that that sense of just having fun and being with one another and enjoying one another all the time is going to last. And when things start to get tough, when the person that you're with inevitably starts saying things that he or she doesn't like about you, or when you start feeling, what's this all about? I never bargained on this. These frustrations, these irritations, these typical fights that we have. This is not what it's about. At that point in time, a lot of people feel that it's just too much. I don't want this. And they leave. And we leave either physically or mentally or emotionally. So the leaving doesn't necessarily mean that I physically leave. It's actually easier in love with love affairs that when you do physically leave, because then you're free to get into the next love affair. And there's many a person who does that. They go from one love affair, and as soon as it gets too tough or too hard, they go into another relationship and another relationship. Always trying to find that perfect relationship. But as soon as the relationship starts souring a little bit, it's not perfect enough, so I'll leave. Or what happens is that we stay in relationship with a sense of this is not the real relationship that I want. And we fantasize or dream of an ideal relationship. We get caught up in the fact that there is going to be the perfect person for me. And in those situations, we may stay in the relationship, but we're not really committed to the relationship. So what is the difference between a love affair and a committed relationship or a marriage? And the difference is that in a marriage or a committed relationship, you realize that you're in this relationship and that instead of giving up and going away, or instead of avoiding these issues, you recognize that this is exactly the gift of the love relationship. This is the place where I can stay and learn and grow within myself. Because in actual fact, that's what a marriage or committed relationship is really about. It's about being able to grow and learn about myself in a space where I know that I'm cared for and looked after and truly loved. A space where I may not be liked for all the things that I do, but there's enough loving here where I can explore who I am. And where my partner, who does care for me, is showing me a mirror of the parts of me that I'm actually not quite aware of, that I'm blind to. And the reason why they're able to show those parts to me is they're the people that are actually staying with us the most. It's our partners that spend the most time with us, that get to know us beyond the mask that we give to everybody else. They know us at an intimate level, both physically and emotionally. They know our good sides and our bad sides. And so they can start holding up that mirror. And that's really what the relationship's about, is to have that mirror shown to you that you can get to a knowledge of the part of yourself that you tend to not see or deny. And so become more conscious of that part and be able to integrate that part into yourselves. The problem, though, is not that our partner can see these things. It's how they give us the information. Because normally it comes after a period of frustration and irritation that they're having with us or we're having with them. We're seeing in them what we don't like either. And so these are the things that we fight about. And inevitably, when we're shown the mirror, it's not with a sense of caring. It's usually in the middle of a fight. And in the middle of a fight, when your partner's screaming at you about something that you don't like, or sarcastically making statements, hurtful statements, you don't turn around and say, well, thank you very much for helping me gain this insight, which is in actual fact what you could be doing. What tends to happen, because we're human beings, is we go back and we become quite defensive. And we say, no, it's actually your fault because you're not as good as what I would like you to be. We come back with our painful reflections of what we don't like about them or what we see in them and that they're not aware of in themselves. So sadly, the gift, the true gift of a love relationship, where one can grow and must discover more about oneself and more about the other. Those true gifts are often blocked by these arguments, these frustrations, these tensions that we have. And we have these tensions in such a way that we will rather not have the argument because we know that it doesn't resolve. It's almost like we know that we have this kind of relationship where we sense the points of the tension. And we know that we're going to go into a familiar argument, the one that we've had so many times, and it doesn't really resolve. It's almost like we could have two tape recorders having these arguments with one another. And we could go out for dinner because the arguments become kind of known in such a way, they're so patterned, and we can't break out of them. So what's the answer? How do we really take this gift of life, which is love, and really use this elixir of life to its fullest? How do we make it happen? And the best way is to learn how to have those arguments or fights in a way that's constructive, in a way that leads to the promise of growth that's bound in the love. And that's where one of the tools that we have with Lewis Deep Democracy, the tool known as the debate, can help you. Because hopefully I've enabled you to look a little bit deeper and wonder how we can get out of this situation, where we can make the relationship, first of all, a committed relationship, and commit to gaining the gift of what the relationship's about to give you. Through learning how to listen and to talk to one another in a way that the mirrors are shown to you. You can learn about yourself, but in a way that's easier, not frustrating, and not destructive. Thank you for listening.